Today we're going to talk about a new book, a DM's Guild product that's print on demand called Ulraunt's Guide to the Plains. I think it's Acheron? I'm really bad with names, guys. But yeah, if you want to see what's inside this is available on print on demand, so you can get this really beefy hardcover book, or just the PDF, or both. If you want to see what's inside, stay tuned. Before we get started talking about Ulraunt's Guide, let's get talking first about the sponsor for this video, and that's none other than Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a dark fantasy RPG that I'm sure you've seen mentioned on a bunch of other folks here on YouTube, but they reached out to me, so I thought I would take a look. It's not only on mobile, which I didn't know, you can also play it on PC, which works out well for me as I can do this in the background when I'm editing videos or doing research for Dungeons & Dragons. You'll see some footage of me here actually playing the game, and it does actually have a campaign mode where you can go in and there is storylines, so I've been looking at it as ways that I can try to see if any of that story I can steal to use to empower future campaigns or campaign ideas, as well as possibly using the different characters or maybe some of the different types of items to make magic items. There is also a battle pass that was recently launched that works like battle passes do in any kind of online game. There's a paid version and a free version, and you get stuff for doing daily and weekly challenges. Also, the folks at Raid Shadow Legends were nice enough to send over to me for this video a code and links you can click down in the description. And if you do click the links in my description, you'll get access to not only 100,000 silver, the currency that you need to do stuff in Raid Shadow Legends, an energy refill, which lets you keep going on additional quests and things like that, a daily XP boost, and a free awesome champion, which is the Adjudicator. And there are, again, links down there if you want to see where you're going to have to go to pick those up when you log into the game. That is right over here in your inbox up at the top right. You click on the inbox and the rewards will be waiting for you here. However, that's only for the next 30 days. So if you want to support me and Raid Shadow Legends at the same time, check out the links in the description. The game is free to play. Let's move on to the video. So if you look right here, you can see here we are on the DM's Guild. Currently a best silver seller, 9 5-star ratings on the DM's Guild. And you have a bunch of different options for you, right? So you can get the PDF for $30, and there's a lot here, so keep that in mind, right? Soft cover, premium color book for $54, hardcover for $59. I'm not sure what the difference between the standard and premium color is, but then there's package deals as well. And then you can see there's different parts, all about the planes, story hooks and whatnot, deities and other powers, character options, a bestiary, and then every sale gives to charity, to Doctors Without Borders. So, especially given the climate of the world right now, how can you go wrong? And I should say, it's just put together by a bunch of folks that are, I would consider to be, well, I would call them luminaries of the DM's Guild. Mark, JVC Parry, those are folks who I know myself, just off the top of my head. I've reviewed things of theirs in the past. Mark, actually, who reached out to me about doing this, was one of the first ever sent copies of a DM's Guild thing I ever did a long time ago. So that was very cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at it right here. And we'll take a look at the table of contents. As I've said before, when you have everything laid out with bookmarks, that is how you make things easy for people to find, because some people don't, and it drives me up a wall. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got here is our table of contents. We'll dive in a little bit deeper, right? So we have the different chapters all basically talking about the different layers. We have the different deities that are tied to it. And there's actually a really cool thing about the deities is a lot of these are deities that I mean, some of us may have heard of, right, if you're big lore junkies, but they're not covered typically in any other book because they're not your standard gods, right? So when you think of orcs, you probably think of Grumsh. That's the main one, but there are several other ones. We've heard about Ilnaval, if you're familiar. I think it's in Mordenkainen's or Volos. That's another type of monster, an orc blade of Ilnaval that exists. For example, I know of Magubliet, the goblin god of rulership and war, but I didn't know about any of the other ones. We've got bugbear gods, hobgoblin gods, Durgar and gnome gods. There's a whole piece about Bane, too, right? If you're unfamiliar, you want to know more about Bane. And then we have some other pantheons here, right? And then we have two new races. We have a Bladeling, which we'll talk about, and I think there's a couple options for gnomes. Several different classes, including Artificer. So don't feel like you're left out. If you got left out of spells on the recent Unearthed Arcana Artificers, there's some options for you here. So we'll take a sample of maybe 1 or 2 classes and look at those. There are some new spells. There are mythic options, which I will discuss a little bit further. Special materials is probably my favorite part. I think it's very well handled, and I'm going to be probably implementing it exactly as it stands into my homebrew game. And then a whole bunch of new monsters. And that's not even all. Monsters, there's definitely ones that I recognize from old editions seeing brought back into this, which is exciting. And then we have mounts, right? Because you're going to be riding across a plane. So we have different kinds of war mounts and war machines. Again, as made famous in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. Some unique monsters that are chosen of specific deities. And then a couple of other monsters here. Things you may not, kind of more like beast creatures here. But not always. Beasts and NPCs, I'd say. And then very nicely laid out for you. Monsters by challenge rating, type, by layer, by special characteristics, names of NPCs, and an index. I mean, really, it's the book too. Again, I can't say enough about the hardcover. I mean, the PDF also great, but like this thing is just like chonky. I don't think I have a good book. Oh, you know what I can do? The best I can give you right now, for those of you who are familiar, is this is a 3.5 player's handbook compared to this book. Like, pretty solid. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the book, because there is some things you may need to know up front. So this is designed to be it even has stuff to go into epic level play, and there's a reason why. So it says right here, epic level play. Well, this book provides plenty of useful information for any campaign that includes travel to the Shadowfell or the Fugue Plane. The deities and bestiary provide epic level challenges for any characters that have advanced to level 20. So keep that in mind if you have a high-level campaign that you're running. In order to accommodate further epic level play, we have created another title called Epic Characters, which I'll put a link to that in the description below. I think I actually reviewed this one as well, but I'll put a link to the DM's Guild if you'd like to pick it up as well, to get your characters from 20 to 30, and then, again, you'll see that when we look at some of the monsters. We have our character options. You can see it'll talk about a little bit high-level stuff about advancement. I'm not going to go into it too much because really the Epic Characters book explains it pretty significantly. But they do give you a little primer if you're unsure about how to handle things like races, subclass, spells, cantrips, and things like that tied to leveling up higher, right? Like, see, level 23, level 28. And then here we'd like to illuminate a specific rule to ensure the various monsters within the book are played at their intended power level. This rule is based on official 5th edition Sage Advice answers to ensure proper distinction between magical and non-magical effects. I won't read it, but that's like, for instance, a dragon's breath is non-magical. It doesn't seem like it should be, right? It's a creature breathing fire, but the fire expelled from a dragon is non-magic. So something to consider. And then they give you another option rule here for the epic die, a d6 that you can add to swing things one way or another. You could even employ that in a non-epic campaign, but it fits more in that. And then we have a little bit about how to fight the monsters and some tables for those who love tables, and explaining how to do random encounters and things, about the different kinds of playtests and feedback they received, divine ranking, where demigods and things fit into this. There's even a lesser deity as mechanically defined by the following features. They give the features up front to explain that to you. Again, let's jump in. We have even, I mean, look at the art. Art's really nice too. So I'm gonna really probably skip high level over the plane stuff, because if you're not going to be playing in a campaign where you're going to this plane, it's not going to be as impactful for you. But some of the new monsters and the deities and that kind of stuff definitely will be. So there was a couple things I wanted to just look at before, as we scroll through. The Cosmology, I guess, wheel here, showing the different planes. Just a nice graphic to have. A couple rules about psychic dissonance and bloodlust in the plane itself. stuff about getting there. I also noticed that the bookmarks, I also have like a pre-release copy, so that may be why. These are all listed kind of alphabetically, so it doesn't actually tie up to the order of the book. So hopefully that got fixed in the final version. How to travel. I'm gonna skip ahead. Where are we here? All right, we're gonna just skip ahead to, but you can see, I mean, like the degree of which things are written in here. I mean, there is just so much information, but I want to get to something a little more. Also, look at this art. Look at that. You might want to have that looked at. Flesh sloth encounter. Well, that. Thought I wasn't hungry beforehand. All right, let's get to where I wanted to be. Into kind of the monsters and the classes. But as you can see, I'm already 62 pages in, and we just, at this point, just have lore and campaign setting. So, I mean, we're still going, right? And then we actually have Bane stat block. We got to, where is this? Deities and other powers. So first up was Bane, and there's a lot of information about Bane, and the story behind Bane becoming a god. Yep, see, Bane is a quasi-divine mortal. Bane in his lair is a CR 45 character. I'm not even going to read through this whole stat block because you're not going to fight a challenge rating 42 character on the regular, but just take a look at this, right? Immunity to, actually not immune to everything. 1,295 hit points, a 25 armor class. Let's see, how many legendary? 5 legendary actions, 5 legendary resistances. If you're frightened of Bane and your speed is reduced to 0 while you're within 60 feet, you take 40-12 psychic damage, just like a Conquest Paladin. An Aura of Terror that also gives any creature within 60 feet of him disadvantage, or that makes an attack roll or saving throw has disadvantage. He discorporates, that's pretty common. Bane can't be negated by disadvantage. He's a greater deity, so he can't be surprised, has advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. Can't be affected or detected by spells of 6th level or lower unless he wishes to be. He's permanently under the effects of Detect Evil and Good, Detect Magic. Sorry, there's a fly here. Casting the teleport, so I also actually caught the fly, which I'm a little impressed with myself. Inscrutable, he's immune to any effect that would sense his emotion or reads his thoughts. He's a spellcaster. He's a 30th level spellcaster with DC 28 on his spells and a plus 20 to hit. He has first level. Where's the spell list? He has the following number of spell slots available. Can he cast any spell? He has all spells prepared except ones that restore hit points. All right, so every spell basically. He has 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th level slots at will. 4-6, 4-7, 4-8, 3-9, and then because we're talking epic level stuff, 2-10, 2-11, and 1-12. I don't even know what those spells are. That must be contained in the epic level spells book. Special equipment. He wears a black gauntlet. It's a magical +4 gauntlet that hits with the force of a falling star. Whenever Bane successfully attacks the black gauntlet, the resulting shockwave dispels all magical effects of his choosing of 9th level or lower within 10 feet. And he can move through force cages and wall of force spells. Bane casts a spell or uses his grasp of imminent death. He then makes one attack with his black gauntlet. Black gauntlet has plus 23 to hit, does 10d10 plus 12 bludgeoning damage, plus 6d10 psychic damage, and they're pushed back 30 feet. They must also succeed on a DC 28 wisdom saving throw or be dominated by Bane until the end of their next turn as if the dominate monster spell. Grasp of imminent death, he targets a creature within 120 feet. They must make a DC 28 dex save or be gripped by translucent mass of shadowy tendrils that magically pull the target to the nearest empty space within 5 feet. The target is then grappled by Bane's left hand. When grappled, they're restrained, and he can't use Grasp of Imminent Death again. He can change shape into a humanoid, beast, or fiend of challenge rating, well, any of them, because he's challenge rating 42. He can change his size from tiny, small, medium, large, huge, and gargantuan. Always a reaction he has. When a creature fails a saving throw within 120 feet, he can move up to half its speed and make a single attack with a black gauntlet against them. And then legendary actions: attack for 2, cast a spell for 2, cast an at-will spell for 1, change shape or size for 1, dark promise for 2. He targets a creature of his challenge rating or lower, so basically all of them. They must succeed on a DC 28 Wisdom saving throw or have a dark promise placed on them. Dark promise forces the target to carry out some service or refrain from some action of a course of activity as Bane decides. Creature's hit point maximum is reduced by 2d8 each time it acts in a manner directly counter to Bane's instructions. He can issue any command he chooses, short of an activity that would result in certain death. Frightening Presence for 3, 120-foot Frightening Presence of DC 28, or Mystic Lash for 2. Bane targets a creature he can see within 120 feet of him with a floating whip of ghostly red force. The target must make a dexterity saving throw DC 28 or take 68 force damage plus 40-10 psychic damage and roll on the following table. On a success, they take damage and don't roll on the table. A 1 on that d6 is a stun. A 2 is crackle. Any non-magical armor, shields, and weapons the target is wearing or wielding is destroyed. 3 is despair. They're frightened of Bane for a minute. They make a DC 28 wisdom save to end it. Paralyzed until the end of their next turn on a 4. Deep impact. On a 5, 68 force damage and hurled 30 feet away. And stoked, the target is dominated by Bane on a 6, as if to dominate monster spell until the end of their next turn. So that's Bane as a greater deity. So from what I can tell, this is basically Bane as you would fight him were he a true god. Which is the first time I think we've actually seen a true god stat block. Again, it's not official, but still. So I went through that. I'm not going to bother going through the next one, but this is Bane as a lesser deity, and then Bane as a quasi-divine mortal. And then here they have options for epic, the epic die that we talked about. There's rules for that. Suggested spells for Bane to choose from. And then they have an avatar of Bane. So I'm not going to, again, go through all of the deities here because they're all put in as much effort and lore and things as this. This is a 308-page document, folks. So here's Bagtru, the orc god of strength. You know, he's a challenge rating 37. In his lair, he's a 39. Strongest orc. Also him to name his aspect. That's his like avatar called strongest orc. Here's Grumsh, One Eye, the one most of us know. Here's Ilnaval. I was talking about him before. He wields a sword and wears armor. Luthic, orc mother goddess of fertility and healing. But I'm just showing you that there's all this stuff. There's the Den Mother, which is a cool, like, almost you could use this as a really badass, like, bear monster creature. Shargas, orc god of death. I'm sorry, of darkness and stealth. What was that? Go back here. All right, we're gonna have to just skip ahead because we're gonna be here for a while if we go through all these. There's this goblin dinosaur that I thought is really good. It's Kjorbayog's aspect. Resembles a T-Rex. It's like a T-Rex with funky goggles, and I really like it. Magubliet is the goblin that I know. The Fire Eyes, the one kind of main goblin god. All right, we're into Dwergar and gnome deities. There's a big mole creature. All right, we're into character options. This is where I wanted to get to. So we have Bladeling, which we'll look at. That's a cool new race. And a Spriggan is a type of gnome. And then you can see here we have a whole bunch of different classes. We have a Stormsmith Artificer, Surveyor Artificer, Path of Metallurgy Barbarian, College of Martial Cadency Bard, Warmonger Bloodhunter, which is nice. It's a new Bloodhunter. I don't know. We'll have to check if this is the new Bloodhunter that uses intelligence or the old Bloodhunter. Domination Domain Cleric, Circle of Warshaping Druid, Eternal Blade Fighter, Ferris Esoterism Monk, A Way of Longblade Monk, Fulmination Paladin, Oath of Unity Paladin, and so on. I think we're going to look at one of the Artificers because we don't typically see those, and the Path of Metallurgy Barbarian because the Path of Metallurgy Barbarian is basically Colossus, and that's awesome. So here's our Bladeling. Terrifying. Not a creature I feel like you'd probably find in most parties, but let's see. Con goes up by 1, and ability chore of your Skois? Your choice goes up by 1. Dark vision to 60 feet. Acid resistance. Canthan heritage. You have advantage on saving throws against non-magical environmental effects such as extreme cold, strong wind, high altitudes. Using an action, you can launch a barrage of spikes in a 15-foot cone. Creature's going to make a dex save based off your con mod. Taking 2d6 piercing damage on a failed save or half on a success, it increases to 3d6 at 6, 4d6 at 11, 5d6 at 16, and you can use it once per short rest. So this is essentially a piercing damage version of a Dragonborn's breath weapon, I guess. But it's at least tied to the Constitution modifier, which is something that you get. It is interesting that you only get 2 scores by 1 rather than 1 score by 2 and 1 score by 1. Shed Skin. If a creature hits you with a melee weapon within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to deal a d4 piercing damage. Now, that's probably why they didn't give you as much ability score improvements, because you have a constant reactionary damage. And your epic racial ability is you add a d6 to your initiative rolls. What the hell? The Spriggan's right here on the same page, so let's look at it. It's a subrace of gnome. Con goes up by 1, and then you have giant growth. You can use an action to increase your size to huge for 1 minute, or revert back to your regular size. For the duration, your weight is multiplied by 32. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and can't be affected by other spells and abilities that change your size. There isn't enough room for you to grow in this manner, you revert to your normal size. That's it? You don't get any other benefits for growing in size? Seems kind of silly. You just get advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and can't be affected by others' abilities and that change your size, and your weight is multiplied, but you don't actually get any other mechanical benefit for this. And you're short-lived. You don't live as long as typical gnomes, so that's interesting. I feel like there's something missing there. And when you revert to normal size, you take a level of exhaustion. You can do that once per long rest. Oh, excuse me. We're going to do the Stormsmith, because I really like the art of the Stormsmith, so let's take a look at it. So, you're going to get, what proficiencies? Smith's Tools. If you already have it, you're going to gain proficiency with another type. Your spells are Thunderous Smite, Thunder Wave, Gust of Wind, Misty Step, Call Lightning, Lightning Bolt, Arcane Eye, Locate Creature, Destructive Wave, and Legend Lore. I like that. Storm Gauntlet. Okay, so this seems to be your main focus, what you're going to do here. When you finish, only you can use it. It counts as both a magic weapon and a spellcasting focus, and you can't be disarmed while wearing it. While wearing your gauntlet, you can, the static discharge cantrip, which we'll look at later. Thunder Slam. You can use your gauntlet as a melee weapon with which you are proficient. On a hit, it rings audibly with thunder within 300 feet, dealing a d6 thunder damage. Use your intelligence modifier for attack and damage rolls. Volt Blast, you can use it as a ranged weapon. It shoots a beam of crackling energy at a range of 150 feet. On a hit, it deals a d8 lightning damage, and you use intelligence for that as well. And if you lose it, I have to create a new one. It's 3 days of work, 8 hours each day, expending 100 gold pieces worth of cloth, metal, and other raw materials. You get extra attack at 5th, and again, if you're playing with the epic rules, you get another one at 27. Power Absorption Module. When you take fire, lightning, or thunder damage while wearing it, you can use your reaction to halve the damage. When you do so, your first Thunder Slam or Volt Blast on your next turn deals additional damage equal to half your artificer level. You can absorb power in this manner a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. You regain all uses when you finish a long rest. And then lastly, we have Overload Module. At 15th level, you have finished building and installing an Overload Module. It grants the following benefits. The damage of your Thunder Slam increases by 1d6. The damage of your Volt Blast increases by a d8, and the range of your Volt Blast increases to 300 feet. Now, I could be wrong, but this seems kind of light, and I haven't reread the Artificer in a while, but this feels kind of light on abilities. But I could be wrong. All right, now here's the Barbarian I wanted to do, the Path of Metallurgy, because it's awesome. So, starting at 3rd level, when you rage, you take on supernatural properties that morphs your body and changes your very nature. When you rage, you change into a metallic form. The form lasts until your rage ends. While transformed, you gain the following benefits and detriments, because it's not all positives. You can roll a d10 in place of normal damage for your unarmed strikes. This increases to a d12 when you reach a 14th level. You can't take a bonus action other than to end your rage or to activate or use a magic item, or one of its effects that requires the use of a bonus action. So because you're made out of metal, you can't do anything else with your bonus action. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. Your unarmored defense feature grants you an armor class equal to 10 plus your strength modifier plus your constitution modifier while not wearing armor and not wielding a shield. You count as wearing a suit of medium metal armor for the purposes of spells like Heat Metal and Shocking Grasp and effects like a Rust Monster's Antennae or a Black Pudding Pseudopod. If your AC is reduced by 10 by such an effect, your rage ends and you can't rage again for 1 minute. Reminder, this is while you're transformed. So your unarmored defense normally grants you 10 plus your dex plus your constitution, while raging in metal form, it's 10 plus your strength plus your con. At 6, your unarmed strikes now count as magic for the purposes of overcoming damage resistance using your metal body. Also at 6, you get 2 following benefits while transformed. You deal double damage to objects and structures, so you're basically a siege creature, and strong legs. Both your long jump and high jumps cover a number of feet equal to 5 plus your strength mod with or without a running start. At 10, you get its compound alloy. When you transform using metallic transformation feature, you count as wearing a suit of magical medium metal armor, making you immune to armor reducing effects. In addition, you can select one of the following options and gain an additional benefit that lasts the duration of the transformation. Your metal can take on the properties of adamantine, so when you're critically hit, it instead becomes a normal hit. It takes on the form of black iron. It is immune to the things of like heat metal and shocking grasp. Everbright, it shines bright light in 30 feet and dim light in another 30 feet, and you are immune to the blinded condition, and your metallic skin repels dirt. Or Mithril, when you make dexterity acrobatics or dexterity stealth checks, you make those with advantage. And then lastly, heavy metal at 14, you gain the following benefits while transformed. You are immune to spells and effects that would transform or alter your form, and you gain tremor sense with a radius of 10 feet. It also has this piece up here for metal consumption if you want. You could say that your jaws and digestive system allow you to consume metals. When consuming 1 pound of metal, you gain all the food you need for a day, but you can't use your metallic transformation feature until you've consumed at least 1 pound of metal since you last finished a long rest. So it's like you can eat metal to survive, but now that becomes a mechanical part of being able to do your transformation. I guess I should say, if you're using their rules and you do hit level 27, when you use your metallic transformation, you become large in size and can no longer become paralyzed, petrified, or stunned. In addition, your movement can't be reduced by non-magical means, and I aptly named Colossus. I just really like it. It's not like super broken, and I think like that's part of the reason why I like it. Dealing a D10 with your punches is no joke, right? That could seriously knock somebody around, and at 14 it jumps up to a D12. So you'll actually be able to punch better than a monk ever will. Granted, you'll only be able to do it twice, and you don't have access to a bonus action other than like a few simple things. But you could do this and become immune to critical hits. You could do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I don't know. I just really liked it because this is literally a Goliath that is Colossus, and I thought that was really cool. And the X-Men fan in me, and potentially the X-Men fan in many others, will, I feel like, draw them to this class. We're just gonna skip ahead. There's also some good art of different, like, look at this Kenku monk there. That's like a polearm wielding monk. And I think there's a Battle Soul Sorcerer was like an old, similar to like a War Mage, but for sorcerers. And then they have the Dagger Spell Magic Wizard, which is cool because there was a thing called the Dagger Spell Mage back in 3.5, and I think that's probably sort of like a spiritual successor to that. And then here you can see we have just a butt ton of new spells, right? Artificer, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Paladin, Ranger, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. So everybody's getting new spells. There's a lot here, so I can't go through all of them. There's just too much. So I'll grab a couple that I know stuck out to me. So Chill Metal is here. That one I don't even really need to explain. Chill Metal is essentially heat metal, but a cold version of it instead. Cube Hop just sounds interesting, so let's read that. While in Acheron's, I don't know, layer of Avalis, this spell instantly transports you. Oh, because it's a cube. That makes sense. Let's look. There's a cantrip. Cold Grip. A thin sheet of freezing, bitter cold ice covers the palm of your hand. You can touch an area of a weak structure. The thin ice are similar and cause the ice to spring from your palm, cover a 10-foot by 10-foot area of the structure. Doing so ends the spell, and for 1 minute, the structure can tolerate double the normal amount of weight before breaking. You can also attack with it and make a melee attack against the target. It takes a d8 cold damage, and that scales up. So it's kind of like a chilling grasp, if you will, but rather than reducing a reaction or a movement speed, it gives you this like role play, make some areas slightly stronger. I saw Glitter Dust was in here, and I want to read that because I really used to like the Glitter Dust spell. Here it is. Glitter Dust. Third level spell, requires golden concentration up to a minute. Each creature and object in a 30-foot cube is covered in gleaming golden particles. Creatures and objects can't benefit from being invisible while covered with the particles. The creature in an area when the spell is cast must also succeed on a dexterity saving throw, become blinded for the duration of the spell. The creature can use an action on its turn to remove the particles from its eyes, ending the blinded condition. Creatures with blind sight automatically succeed the saving throw. If a creature or object is covered in the particles while in bright light, attack rolls against it has advantage if the attacker can see it. Yep, that's everything I want in my Glitter Dust spell. That's very, very similar to the older versions of Glitter Dust, so it kind of hits the nail on the head for everything it needs. Also, I saw this one up here, Fright, which is an illusion cantrip, so I'm going to read that one. You target a creature within range, conjuring forth disturbing imagery in its mind. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, become frightened of you until the end of its next turn. Okay, pretty simple. Let's keep looking what we got here. Icicles is a cantrip. Oh, it's a D12. Let's read that one. You start at a ceiling, doorway, or similar overhang, magically forming icicles in a 5-foot square area on the surface. They remain there for the duration of the spell until a creature moves into the space directly beneath them, at which point they plummet down. They need to make a dex save, take a d12 piercing damage. The creature can notice the icicles with a successful perception check against your spell save DC. If the icicles are in snowy or icy environment, the check is made with disadvantage, and then that obviously increases. There's Investiture of Metal. I'm going to read that because I like the Investiture spells a lot. Concentration up to 10 minutes. Your skin becomes steel and you gain the following benefits. AC becomes 18 unless it's already greater. Strength score becomes 18 unless it's already greater. Your weight and carry capacity doubles. You have advantage on strength checks, strength saving throws, and you don't need to breathe. Keen Weapon does exactly what it used to do back in the old days. It gives you crit on a 19 or 20. Now let's go with Mass Frostburn, because it happens to be right here. You cause frigidly numbing frost to form on any number of creatures you can see within range. A target must make a con save. On a failed save, a target takes 10d8 cold damage, and until the end of its next turn, its speed is reduced. And it has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes. So I saw Metal to Flesh. That makes sense. Wall of Iron. I mean, the art is really good too. I like the look of this kind of frost cleric here. I assume that's a cleric, but that could be a fighter or a paladin. But and then we have mythic options, right? So these are mythic boons and maneuvers for characters at level 30. I'm not going to read that because I can't even get a game to level 20, let alone am I going to get one to level 30. But there's options here. Special materials. This I did want to read. So I really like this because if you know anything about me, and you've probably heard me talk about it before, I lament the lack of good crafting and crafting systems and things in 5th edition. So I really like anytime somebody puts a lot of thought and effort into making that work. So this one, unlike other versions that we've seen of crafting things, it keeps things the way they are in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but it just expands upon it, right? So metallic, adamantine armor, any crit against you becomes a normal hit. However, here, weapons made out of adamantine are basically, they hit more critically, which I like. When an adamantine weapon, its crit range increases by 1. When used against the adamantine armor, the crit range isn't increased, but it's possible to land a critical hit, which makes a cool counter to adamantine armor. It also gives you the cost to how to make it rather than having it truly be like a magic item. It just costs 5 times the amount of whatever the weapon would be. Black iron, for example, is another thing here. You gain resistance to fire damage and ignore the effects of extreme heat if you get armor in it. If you get plate, you also have advantage on saving throws against magic that deals damage. Shields made from black iron. If you're subjected to a magical effect that makes you make a dexterity saving throw to only take half damage, you instead take no damage. And the weapons count as magic for the purposes of overcoming damage resistance. Everbright armor and weapons, they have no magnetic properties, they never get dirty, and they always shine as if newly polished. They also can't be damaged from oxidizing effects or acid. And then Mithril, we already know how Mithril armor works, right? It removes disadvantage on stealth checks. But they made light weapons. If you get a light weapon crafted with Mithril, it weighs basically nothing. If you get a heavy weapon crafted with Mithril, it loses the heavy property. Like a greatsword would become just a regular greatsword, not heavy, so a small creature could wield it normally. And it says other weapons that are not light or heavy gain the light property if made out of Mithril. And then ammunition fired that's made out of Mithril ammunition can use the long range without disadvantage. And I really liked that. I thought that was a good little fix for that. And then we have the monsters. So I'm going to start with I can never pronounce this guy, but it's in from previous editions, and I thought it was really cool. And I like this. Flightless though they may be, they found their way to traverse the skies of Acheron, atop the back of rust dragons, which is awesome to think about one of these guys flying on a dragon. Challenge rating 5, so this could be incorporated in any game. They are a fiend. Resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic, and immune to poison. Magic resistance as well. They have advantage on perception checks that rely on smell and to detect poison creatures, and wisdom survival checks to track a poison creature. 3 attacks, 1 beak, 2 claws. The beak does 2d10 plus 4, and they need to succeed on a DC 14 con save or be poisoned. The claw attack, if the creature and the Acheron doesn't already have 2 creatures grappling it, it can grapple them. While grappled, they're restrained, and it can release a black cloud centered on it with a point within 30 feet. The cloud spreads around corners and areas heavily obscured. It remains for 1 minute. Each creature that is completely within the cloud at the start of its turn begins to suffocate. Must make a DC 14 con save. A failed save, the creature takes 46 poison damage. It can't take reactions, and then must roll a d10. And then it basically has the confusion spell. It's stunned, it doesn't move, it uses an action to make a melee attack, or it can act and move normally. And see, like, here's an Acheron, which is like a Zorn, but like significantly worse. And like has this tendril tail and is a significantly higher challenge rating. Arrowhawks have also been in previous editions. It's nice to see their return. They also brought back axiomatic characters, or the idea of, they brought back a template, right? An axiomatic template. So, right, you have chaotic creatures, right? And axiomatic creatures would be a lawful creature. But I like this. I like templates from old editions where you choose your race, your class, whatever else, and then you could apply a template to you that would alter things. So there's an axiomatic template in here. There's a couple other things I wanted to show you, and then we can move on. A lot of cool stuff here. Some new devils. Durger. A whole bunch of them. Toshins. Going. Formians as well. There's a Formian Queen, but that uses the Ankeg stuff. There's a Weremole, which is hilarious, and I love it. It also looks absolutely terrifying. Also, good goblin-based additional monsters, right? If you want to throw bugbears and goblins and orcs at people and you don't have good stat blocks, there are plenty of really good high-level stat blocks for all of these kinds of races in here. Orcs, hobgoblins, goblins, and bugbears. As you can see, just the art is really good. What they can do is really good. Malgs, I remember from back in the day. Where is what I'm looking for? Well, are the different kind of orcs. Orogs. There's different kinds of raptors. This is an Alvala raptor. The Casa raptor. That looks like a cockatrice mixed with a raptor. Which is, again, also scary. Ragewind. Different kinds of Rakshasas. Here we go. Rust dragons. So, it's essentially a rust monster, but it's a dragon, which is the cool part. So they still have like the antennae of a rust monster, but they also have a breath weapon that deals acid damage. And then they have a rust breath that basically is the antenna, but in a breath form. And it has, and it could be just absolutely brutal, but look at this guy. Ancient Rust Dragon. Look at that. How cool is that? Just the art is so cool. And look, it still has the antennae, right? Like a rust monster. It can still fly. It can rust metal just by touching it after dealing damage. It can reduce it down. And its rust breath, non-ferrous metal objects in the area that aren't being carried or worn, that are being carried or worn, such as shields, are described in the rust metal trait in the antenna section. Let's see. If the object touched is either metal or metal armor shield, receives a permanent reduction. It looks like I think it still only works on non-magical things, but either way, I really like it. I want to put one in a game. I think that'd also be very scary early on in a campaign, because when people don't have magic weapons, like that could be really dangerous. Also, giant ass beetle, right? So siege beetle. We got like a larva, like a little baby nymph form, and then the big ones that challenge rating 22. It's an aberration, but still cool. And then these steel wings are like, you know, razor winged eagles. They're just so cool. The concept of these monsters just really, I mean, if for that alone. And then there's a Styxian dragon, which, like, it's an undead river dragon. Like, what? I really, and I don't even know what that thing is, but that looks cool. Also, I just noticed it says Boo isn't afraid of anything, so I guess Minsk has gotten into here, messing around with stuff. But obviously you can just see the creatures look cool. And then here's like the mounts, right? This big kind of cube crawler, which reminds me of War of the Worlds. Big giant aurochs, underdark creatures, Gulvorg, Luthician bear, and then there are war machines. I think there's a helicopter in here. Yep, the gyrocopter, and like different weapon outfits for it. This is a goblin war mower, and that you just can't beat names like that. And then there are unique monsters, which are basically like sort of champions of all of the deities that we've mentioned, right? So this is Fazul Chembril, and he's a challenge rating 23, and he is tied to Bane, I believe. Yeah, Chosen of Bane. You can see Chosen of Ladogar. Is it Grumps? But I don't understand why the Chosen of Grumsh has 2 eyes. Kind of makes no sense to me. Here's a Divine Mount of Bagtrue. But you get the point. And then again, here are some other monsters, just kind of reprints here. Baneites. Here's Aurochs. A couple of different NPC creatures here. Some different Durger stat blocks. Some Goblinoid stat blocks. I think these were in Volos. The Devastator and the Iron Shadow. Yep, here's the Ilnaval and the Claw of Luthic. Yeah, these are Volos reprints. Some of these may be new. Oh, there's the Steeder Spiders from Out of the Abyss are in here. Rot Grubs. We got some different Yugoloths in here as well. And then again, our appendices listing our creatures by different types. You can see you have a bunch of challenge rating 5, 6, 7, and then even like 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we still even have, look at all the challenge rating 20. All the champions are challenge rating 20. Then we have stuff again going all the way up to challenge rating 45. Experience points for each. Yeah, very cool. I'm a big, like, you can clearly tell that this book is a labor of love, right? I mean, I don't know how long with the development time that went into this book, but it clearly was not something that was taken lightly. And this is a guide to the planes, right? So we've got one plane here. In theory, if this does very well, which I'm hopeful that it will, you'll be able to get more of this book in this, these books in this series for the other planes of existence. And I'm hoping that we also get them in the hardcover, because like I said, the book is just really nice. It's a good quality. The text is nice and crisp. I mean, the art looks really great. Like I said, I saw there was a premium color and like a standard color. I don't know which version I got, but either way, the book just looks great. I mean, like, look at this. And it's all like goofy, weird, funky stuff. Look at the art. This is just fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of this. As I said, thank you so much to Mark and everyone who's involved in this team for sending this to me for review purposes. I really do appreciate it. And I did try to keep, it was my honest opinion on stuff. I'm here mostly For me, I don't really plan on running a campaign here, and I don't plan on running a campaign that's going to run to epic levels, though that would be cool. I will likely be sampling, 100% sampling the special materials and some of the monsters and things from that. I also think it's laid out, right, like a D&D, like a 5e book should be. Like the stat blocks, the way things are split up with the different texts and fonts and things. And I know that may seem silly for me to mention, but it's true. I have read through many guides and other people's books where you're reading through it, and you can't really tell where you're at if you've started one section or gone to a next one, because the blocking and the texts and like the locations in the like where they are on the page doesn't make sense. And this is definitely not the case for this. And there's just so much here. Like I said, it's like 300 something pages. There's a ton of information here. I don't know. I don't think you can really go wrong with picking up a copy of this for yourself. But don't leave, there's a PDF, like I said. The book is nice. I like having books, especially for things that are this big, with this much stuff in it. Trying to print this out or trying to scroll through a PDF is a nightmare to me. Any kind of book that has a bunch of creatures and monsters and things in it, I always want hardcover. So I'll have links in the description to the DM's Guild if you'd like to pick up a copy for yourself. If you do and you like it or don't like it, I do encourage you to leave a review to let them know what your thoughts are, what you think they could change or not. I mean, the printed book's obviously not going to be the case, but if something is drastic that you find or you think needs to be changed or whatnot, there is still a PDF version, so they could, in theory, update that. If you download it and buy it on the DM's Guild, you'll get any future updates that are made to it. So let me know what you all think of this book. Are you going to be picking this up? Are you excited for the potential? So this is like we've got some dark stuff in here. I would love if the next book is like Ulraunt's Guide to the Plains, Elysium or Celestia or something. So we go to like the light upper plains region rather than just the lower plains, so we can get some other stuff. Or like, I would really like Mechanus, right? Especially if I know a lot of people want they want Planescape, right? A lot of people want Planescape. I don't know if we're gonna get it. Things are kind of alluding that we might be. But if you're gonna be doing plane hopping, you need a guide to the plains. And unless Wizards makes a true guide to the plains, a series of these books is going to be exactly what you need. So, again, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate it if you'd at least consider it. And if you feel up to it, go ahead and click that little bell button too. So, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.